optimism on every lineup we build. Usually it's Tambo sitting across from me. He's like, this projects 34 points below the optimal.
Oh, here's the thing. I know what I'm doing here in this program. I am not here to fact check you. That is not what we're doing.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog. Week 3, DraftKings Picks, position by position, the values, the ownership, and then building some lineups. Tambo is away on vacation this week. Well, he's at a wedding. He'll be back next week when we're both in Montreal for President's Cup, but still doing this show for you. So stepping in from the Davis Mattek YouTube channel, it's Davis Mattek.
How's it going, man? I'm glad to be here. A beautiful week of daily fantasy football in front of us. Thankfully, we have at least one game that's going to be good for offense in the main slate. I mean, I don't know about you, Pat, but as a real fantasy football virgin, this whole teams passing for 160 yards and like half a touchdown on average, it's been a bit of a slog. So I'm hoping that all the theorizing that the lack of playing in preseason, I'm hoping that all those people are right and we get some unexpectedly good passing offenses this week.
Well, maybe we can try to identify a few of the games, because right now the game you're talking about is Arizona and Detroit in the later half of the main slate on DraftKings. Maybe we'll try to identify like 2 or 3 other games that we think could shoot out if all of our priors coming into the year were correct, and the rust has worn off some of these games, because that'll be the move, because everyone's going to target the exact same game this week. So if we can try to get a little bit different, which we were able to do last week. I was all in on the Dallas passing offense. That was a bad idea. Fortunately, Shaheed was there to help me a little bit. No Kamara was detrimental, but my main lineup was a Baker lineup stacked up with Bucks and Lions, and that worked out perfectly.
Yeah, 55 pass attempts. I put the Lions in the camp of a team that wants to be run heavy, but is not afraid to pass when they need to pass, which is maybe even kind of what we want in this modern NFL. Because I think to extend drives, I think a lot of these teams that maybe even want to pass, they have a bad running game. So there are a lot of 3 and outs. There are a lot of punts on those teams. The Lions are kind of a good mix where they're totally fine throwing when they have to. And then, I mean, we've got some real questionable quarterback play this week. Like if Skylar Thompson is able to have an A+ Skylar Thompson game, which I guess in the context of football would be like a C- NFL game, that Seattle Miami game could be super fun too.
It could be. And like, how much of a drop off do you think Skylar Thompson actually is from Tua?
I think it's a pretty big drop off. Like Skylar Thompson he played at my alma mater. He played at Kansas State University. He has started, I believe,
3 games.
7 NFL.
Well, he started 4.
He's played in 7 games.
He has, but he started 4 games. Now, he played the playoff game against the Bills when the Bills' defense was actually good. And then the other 2 starts that he made 2 against the Jets' pass defense and once against the Patriots' pass defense. Like, he played 3 really good defenses, pass defenses especially, in the games that he played. And, like, Seattle's defense is okay. They're not on that level.
No, and they don't have a particularly great pass rush. I think we saw that last week versus Brissett. If I remember correctly, his best game came in one of those games where Tua left early with a concussion. Now there is also I've been seeing this going around, and I was actually guilty of this too. The Taregt in games where Skylar Thompson played stats are going around, and they look fine. I believe he averages 106 yards in games that he started or in games that he played. But then you look into it a little bit further and you realize, well, part of that is because Skylar Thompson has come in these games in relief, particularly a game against Minnesota and a game against San Francisco and a game against Houston, all of which Taregt had 2 big receptions or multiple big receptions from Tua before Thompson came in the game.
So Detroit, Arizona, 51.5 is the total. The other late game, Baltimore and Dallas with a 1-point spread, 48 is the total in that game. The only other one that's really pressing up there is 49.5, and it's Philly at New Orleans. Are you buying the New Orleans offense?
I mean, I definitely am not buying that every single Derek Carr-led drive is going to end in points. He's been on the field for 15 drives. They've all either ended in a touchdown or a field goal. I'm not buying that, but I am buying in general that Clint Kubiak is like one of the only offensive coordinators in the NFL who's just doing all the things to make life easy for Carr right now. They lead the NFL in pre-snap motion, percentage of plays with pre-snap motion. They lead the NFL in percentage of percentage of passing plays that are play action. Like he really is doing all of those things for his quarterback. I mean, if I was gonna bet this game, I would bet the over. Now the Eagles are much more run heavy than they were the last 2 years, but they also just gave Saquon 36 million, so that seems fine. But if they get down 10 points in this game, or if the Saints are just scoring, I definitely think that they could throw the ball 35 times here. I mean, those are the three games you mentioned: Detroit, Arizona, Dallas, and Baltimore, and Philadelphia, New Orleans. Those all seem like the pretty clearly the best games.
So you said Miami, Seattle has the potential if Scour plays well. What about Houston and Minnesota? That just seems like that game in the middle. The total's 46, so it's well above the low totals, but well behind the high totals. I could see that game getting out of hand pretty quickly. Like, Minnesota's defense has been really good, and so has Houston's so far this season. But that's through 2 weeks. Like, they might not be just lockdown defenses.
No, this one is probably my favorite in terms of like combination of ceiling and ownership. I mean, I think Justin Jefferson is a phenomenal play. Tank Dell is going to be like stone giga chalk at 5,200 on DraftKings. Cam Akers is also going to be huge chalk at 4,700. We're recording this on Friday morning. Mixon and Pierce both have not practiced, so the backfield is going to be down to Akers. Now, Dare Ogunbowale is going to play like 2-minute drill and long down at distance, which is pretty annoying if you're going to be using Akers. Akers is much more of the Texans win this game style script. But yeah, our boy, Cuss boy, Sammy D, man, he has been cooking. Got a couple throws last week that I was like, man, that is like top level stuff. Not taking any sacks, that's pretty big. He's always been a big sack taker. I hope that game is awesome. That's actually on Underdog. That's really the way I'm playing it in a lot of these battle royales. Very very attractive prices on that game.
I haven't jumped into that because I'm more of a pick 'em man, as you know, and a betting man. So I haven't really gotten into any of the battle royale drafts week to week on Underdog yet. Code Mayo, by the way, to sign up if that's more your jam and this kind of thing. Are they worth exploiting? Like, do you think that it's kind of soft?
So I definitely think it is exploitable. I definitely think people make a lot of mistakes. There is less content around it, and you can't have a computer do it for you. You would be giving up. You'd be giving up a lot of points if you auto drafted these. Now it's definitely, I think, a little bit sweatier and a little bit harder than it's been in years past because people have just had more experience playing it. Obviously the constraint for someone such as yourself would be, is the juice worth the squeeze? Do you want to do a bunch of $5 drafts? Probably not. There is a $100 draft that fills up pretty quick on Saturday and Sunday mornings that you might have fun doing though.
All right, well, I'm going to have my giant recap of everything on Saturday afternoon. The injuries, the updated rankings, DraftKings ownership, and the Underdog Pick'em plays of the week. If you're looking for that, that's on the PME feed. And I need you to sub to the YouTube channel, by the way. We're almost at 50K subs. Trying to get there. We're inching towards it. And if you've not subbed to Mayo Media Network, please go do that now. The last game I did want to talk about is another one that I might be targeting because I think I can figure out at least the blueprint of how I want to play it. And there might be 10 points in the game, which would be terrible. But there's a chance that this Vegas-Carolina game goes way over 40 points.
I'm probably not the guy you want on this one. Not a big Andy Dalton believer. Wasn't a big like Canales is going to fix Bryce Young believer. Also not really a believer in Antonio Pierce. I know the results have been much better than expected for him. The first thing he said after like the biggest upset of his season last week was saying, I hate winning that way. I want to run the ball more. I want Zamir White to be the decider of who wins these games, not Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams. So I don't love hearing that. The idea of like Deontay Johnson being 30% owned, it does not seem great to me either. I probably am going the other way.
I'm with you on Deontay Johnson. Like, I like Deontay Johnson. I think the move is just like over receptions on Underdog with him if you want to play it. But the move could just be Thielen instead, who's cheaper and way less owned.
At 100%. Yes. Yeah, you were right.
And that was the guy that Dalton loved last year in the one game that he started against Seattle. So I just think that's an interesting flyer based on volume alone. And listen, there's 6-point dogs or 5-point dogs to Vegas. Like, if they're going to be passing the whole time anyway. Or you say, hey, they're just a more competent offense with Andy Dalton because they can do a little bit more and at least have teams think about the threat of someone passing on them, that maybe Chuba Hubbard is actually the play.
I mean, if you really want to open your third eye and scroll down the board, Xavier Legette looked really good in week one.
I disagree. I think it's not that he didn't look good in week one. I agree with you. I think with Dalton back in, part of the benefit of having Dalton as your quarterback is he is going to target Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen because they run crisp routes. They know where they're going. And if he doesn't have a ton of time, he's going to throw it to a spot. And he knows that those guys are going to be there. I think that veteran QBs love the veteran receivers.
So I mean, you are 100% right. Thielen 11 for 145 last year. Terrace Marshall had 5 for 35, but DJ Shark, who would be the analog in this offense, had 4 for 86 and 1. 4 for 86 and 1 is not getting it done on DraftKings this week, but 5 for 125 and 2 could get it done. Obviously, that is some wish casting there for me, but
is Leggett that kind of player though? Like, is he DJ Chark is just a burner? That's all he is.
Leggett is kind of, if I had to do a style comp for him, I'd say he's kind of like a hybrid between. Obviously, he's not as good as these players, but he's kind of like a hybrid of like a Deebo Samuel and a Metcalf player, where he actually is very good after the catch, and the thing about Leggett is he really only had one sample in college. He only played about 500 cumulative snaps in 4 years until his 5th year, but he was basically like the best wide receiver in the SEC last year at South Carolina, playing with Spencer Rattler. I will say I normally play about 10 teams in like single entry 3-max stuff per weekend on DraftKings. I'll probably do one Leggett. I will probably do one Xavier Leggett team just because I've been thinking about it so much that I would be so disappointed if I didn't financially prosper off it happening.
Yeah, I'll end up using Thielen in that spot. And that's what we're doing on the show this year. Like, I don't even enter contests in the Millionaire Maker. Like, I don't care. I'm not playing
No, absolutely
max.
not.
So I'm playing a lot of 3-max, a lot of single entry. And I really like the $10 10-max that they have. So all the lineups that we construct on this, I'll throw into the $10. But I'll probably pick and choose one or two of these lineups that we build and then throw those into the giant 200 or 153 max or $100 single entry, whatever it might be. Coming off a good week, I got to spend that money. You know how it works.
Of course I know how it works. Yeah, the way I play DFS has changed so much over the years as like what has become profitable changes. And I mean, I think right now for most people, if you're not trying to dedicate the time to like literally create your own sim process or work on your own projections or whatever, I think the $50, $100, $75 single entry or the $20 3-max, these are like pretty exploitable contests because there's still a lot of bad lineups in there, still a lot of people who are like not using projections at all or using projections the wrong way in those contests. So I'm definitely aligned with how you're playing these days.
Yeah, if you want to jump in and do your own projections and run the Sims, runthesims.com is exactly where you want to be. It's all the tools are there, and then you can customize it any way you want. So you take out that middle part of you having to create your own system. It's all done there for you. You can use code Mayo to get 10% off that right now. Running backs. You mentioned Mixon, so that's going to put Cam Akers way up. Now, there's a chance that Pierce or Mixon practice on Friday, and those guys get in. Do you know when the last time that Cam Akers had double-digit touches in a game?
It would have been one of those playoff games, right? The 2022
There you go.
Playoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he smashed.
He did.
Right?
He absolutely smashed.
He went nuclear. I'm making pretty large bets on Cam Akers this week. I like added him in a ton of my high stakes these nerd ass leagues that I'm in. I think they are going to give him every opportunity in this game to prove that he deserves to be the running back 2 over Dameon Pierce, because the way I read it is that this coaching staff just hates Dameon Pierce. They think he's lazy. They think he can't figure out the scheme. And Akers, going all the way back to his college sample, was in this Shanahan-style zone, the one-cut zone blocking scheme. That's what he has excelled in. I think that's why they picked him up after the Achilles injury, because he's so familiar with the scheme. I think they're going to give him 18 rushes in this game, and if he performs well, it's adios Dameon Pierce.
He is $4,700 this week. He's going to be, I'm guessing, the highest owned running back. Would you consider him a free square though? Like, does he have, like, Jordan Mason was a free square last week at $5,200. Like, everything lined up for him. We saw the performance. I could see how Cam Akers goes wrong this week too.
100%. Yeah, he's not a free square. He's particularly not a free square in
Blowouts.
well, any contest that is more than like, I don't know, 1,000 entries or something like that. Like, because I mean, he could get those 18 rushes that I just mentioned and get 6 points. Like they're not going to use him on passing downs. That's going to be all Dare. So he's really got to score and probably to be in the nuts, like probably to win your contest, he's probably has to score twice. Now, obviously, he can do that. What did Mixon get? 32 points in week one. Not that I don't think Joe Mixon is a particularly talented rusher at this stage in his career. So, but yeah, the path to failure is pretty evident. I mean, Mason almost failed last week. Mason got lucky to kind of score a touchdown, and he got literally exactly 100 yards, so just got the bonus, but he was like 2 plays away from like getting 11 points and not being in any winning lineups.
Maybe, but that opportunity was there. Like, we could encounter a situation where the opportunity just doesn't materialize for Akers, even if he's a starter. Like, they get down by 14 and he's just not on the field. We know Mason's going to be on the field, especially with this Kittle news coming out that they could be out McCaffrey, Debo, and Kittle this week against the Rams. Like, Mason, I think, is still the free square this week. He's only $6,200.
Yeah, they moved his price freaking $200. Yeah, I will. I don't know if I'm not going to say I'm going to play Mason on every team because he, like Charbonnet is there as well.
Charbonnet,
yeah. Mason.
Here's the sneaky thing about Zach Charbonnet. He's not any
bad.
good.
Yeah, he's bad. Charbonnet this week is they're going to be running downhill the entire time. Like the reason why Charbs almost failed last week was they kind of had to abandon the run. I think he only got 11 rushes. Now he got 11 rushes for 19 yards because he's not particularly good. But Ray Davis looked like James Brown last week against them. So against the Miami Dolphins, like their defensive front looked miserable. Like it looked really bad.
I like that you said James Brown, like the musician and or Fox
not
analyst.
Jim Brown.
You're thinking about Jim Brown. Not Jim Brown. I don't know if Ray Davis has the collegiate lacrosse background of a Jim Brown, so I can't comp that.
That's so funny, man. You can really tell I'm not a boomer when I mess that one up. Yeah, I think the combination of Mason, Akers, and Charbs means that if you have a lean at anyone else at running back, like you're going to get a pretty good discount on them because those guys are going to take up. What do you think the combined ownership on DraftKings when we turn the cards over on Sunday is of Mason, Akers, and Charbs?
Mason, Akers by themselves, like I think that Mason in large field tournaments is probably going to be like 35 to 40%. In smaller field contests, higher stakes, he's going to be even higher because I'm probably going to play him I played him in every lineup last week. I'll probably play him in every lineup this week. He is simply too cheap. He is the best points per dollar running back by almost a full point per dollar right now. Charbonnet is second at 6,000. So you might see like the combo of those two if people just are squeamish on Akers, but Akers probably get those three. Like total combined ownership is probably 100%. Those three played together. I don't know. It's probably like 7% or so.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. And it means like on top of that, like, oh, if you're a big Jahmyr Gibbs guy, if you're a big Josh Jacobs guy,
I actually like, have the guy.
This is your week.
I think I have the guy. It's DeAndre Swift at 5,600, who, like Charbonnet, sucks. You mentioned Joe Mixon already. Well, what happened to the Colts last week? Do you remember who played against them?
Yeah, Malik Willis, brother, just absolutely dunked on him. It was beautiful.
And what did Josh Jacobs do on the ground against them?
Well, he had 36 touches for 16 DraftKings points, so I don't love that.
He didn't get into the end zone, but he ran all over them. He had you've seen Mixon like 30 plus carries against the Colts. They can't stop the run. And yeah, I get that Swift is bad, but I just think you can run all over the Colts, and that's what the Bears are going to do.
So I conceptually, I'm with you. I'm not clicking this button. I'm not clicking this button myself. I think there also is a lot of risk that DeAndre Swift scores like 2 touchdowns all year. There was this interesting element where in that game last week, they had I think 4 high leverage short yardage plays, and Khalil Herbert was on the field for all of them. Khalil Herbert came in on the goal line. Khalil Herbert came in on 3rd and 1. and 4th and 1. So I think what's going on there is the coaching staff realizes that Swift sucks, but they also realize the front office paid him what was it, 3 years, 24 million, something like that. Like, so they can't just outright bench him yet. But I wonder if he basically just doesn't get any high value touches the whole year.
So the other one who is projecting for a ton of ownership is A-Chain, but that is before factoring in that Mostert and Jeff Wilson might end up being active because they're practicing on a limited basis. So that's sort of a wait and see. That, I mean, I like him a lot this week if those guys are out. I like him a lot anyway, but more so if those guys are out, if he's going to continue to get the... Why were they running, like, for a guy who had an ankle sprain coming into the game, what was the point of running him down 25 points on Thursday night in the fourth quarter?
I think they just think Jalen Wright sucks and just is not ready for prime time. Maybe he's got Devin A-Chain on his fantasy team. Yeah, A-Chain is, I mean, he's probably the best play of the slate, right? I mean,
what if the other two guys are active though?
I don't care at all. I
Okay.
mean, he got 26 points in week 1. With I think Mostert got 11 touches and Jeff Wilson got 4 in that game. I mean, he is. Like, if I told you that Devin A-Chain was just guaranteed locked in to stay healthy for this entire season, he probably just leads fantasy football in points. I don't really think anyone can even get close to touching him. He's super efficient. He actually hasn't even ran well yet. He's actually at negative rushing yards over expectation. And I know the nerds don't always love rushing yards over expectation, but I mean, he's got the best usage profile in the NFL, basically.
Yeah, the other two that I'd be looking at right now, because I know Tajay Spears is probably going to play, but he still might be somewhat limited because his role is somewhat limited to begin with. Pollard against Green Bay at 6,000 might be the pivot off of Charbonnet if that's the way that you want to go, because he's looked pretty good through 2 weeks. And although this guy has looked terrible through 2 weeks, I mentioned Swift would be one in those mid-fives. Zamir White is sitting right there, that he might end up with 22 carries in this game.
Yeah, if I'm going to play a non-talented running back, I think the non-talented running backs in good situations this week that I like are Zamir White and Rashad White. I'm much more likely to play those guys. But honestly, I feel like Mason, Akers, Sharp, A-Chain, Kamara, who we haven't even really discussed yet. I just feel like those guys are such good plays. I might just try and get weirder elsewhere. So just one thing I've learned, shout out to runthesims.com. One thing I've really learned getting into the Sims is that you don't really get paid off, at least theoretically, in the Sims from not playing chalk at running back all that much. Like playing Pollard is a good example. So Pollard projects like 4 points worse than Charbonnet right now. And the Sims basically think you are an idiot. You were just giving your opponents money when you play Pollard over Sharps.
So, I mean, I do give my money to my opponents all the time because that is something that I'm going to be doing. I'm just not going to play any Charbonnet and hope that he's not good and busts out in this game. Maybe he'll get hurt, and then all of a sudden I'll look like a genius.
Well, obviously the Sims can only know what you tell it. So the Sims only know that at runthesims.com that Charbonnet is projected for 19 points or whatever, and that he's a really strong points per dollar value. But if you changed him to 14.5 points, which like honestly maybe is more realistic, like what if Kenny McIntosh gets 7 rushes and 2 catches in this game? That would just absolutely nuke Charbonnet's range of outcomes, and it's totally possible. So like the Sims are definitely not gospel. I just think they're like kind of directionally accurate. I think I'm with you that Charbonnet is like a very fragile play, but I don't know if I have it in me to not play him, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And look, but the numbers would tell you that he is a super strong player. I just don't believe in him that much. If he doesn't punch one in from the 1 and he doesn't score the touchdown for them, you know, maybe he ends up scoring 3 and you absolutely need him. It just, I have other ways that I can get different in my lineup. But you're right about the chalk at running back. It's only because there's so many good running backs now. Like there's like 7.
Every running back's good.
Or no, but every running back situation sucks. If you can find a situation that's good, just play one of those guys.
Yeah, and running, every team wants to run the ball now. This crazy stat. So through 2 weeks, there are more explosive plays, like meaning like I believe the definition is 20-yard gains. More explosive plays from runs than pass in the NFL through 2 weeks, which is it's like that's never been the case. It hasn't been the case since like the 1970s. It's like really unbelievable.
When James Brown was topping the charts. Wide receiver, points per dollar. Elijah Moore actually projects out to be the best at 3,600. Then it's Shaheed, Devonta Smith, Malik Neighbors, and Chris Olave. After that, you got, like, for the cheapos, you got Jawan Jennings at $4,100, who's probably going to end up being pretty good here in terms of ownership and what he sees, especially if Kittle is out again. And then the other ones from the $4,000 range are going to be, where are we at here? Deontay Johnson at 49, Wendale at 44, Jalen Naylor, presumably without Jordan Addison, at 44. See, that's the one. And I played a ton of Jalen McMillan last week. He didn't do anything, but I'd be willing to go back to him again against Denver if you think that Surtain can take out either Evans. Probably Evans is who he ends up on. Then all of a sudden, you presume that they watched last week tape and be like, all right, here's the thing. This Chris Godwin guy, we got to cover him this week. So we just don't let him run completely wide open, which could open up other possibilities if you go down the board. But with all the running backs that we talked about, you can just save, you can go 62, 6,047 at running back. Then you don't have to pay down at receiver if you don't want to.
Yeah, and there's like some good cheap defenses. There are a couple tight ends. Yeah, you can play Ayuk, Dell, Devonta, Olave, these dudes together. JSN is 5,400.
How much of the JSN explosion last week do you think it was? Because Christian Gonzalez played on DK so much. It doesn't even seem like they want to throw in his direction. And DK got his big, it's been covered ad nauseum at this point. And Christian Gonzalez did an excellent job on Garrett Wilson on Thursday Night Football as well. That just, he's becoming one of those corners that they just throw to the other side of the field. So whenever Gonzalez was on DK, it just became JSN time. And I don't think that Jalen Ramsey is quite perceived that way anymore. Like, he's still good, but he's not elite like he used to be.
You're probably talking to the wrong guy, because I was like a big JSN believer coming into the year. So I was kind of expecting a game like that at some point for JSN. I mean, particularly on DraftKings, I think he's awesome. Obviously, the thing that could happen is you're very right. It could have just been a 1 week thing. We totally go back to Lockett being a normal role. Although you would definitely expect the age cliff to come for Lockett in kind of a quiet way, because if he loses half a step, I mean, he was not like a super athletic guy to begin with, just like a very precise player. I don't know if I'm jamming JSN this week, but I do definitely like him. I mean, I think we are absolutely spoiled for choice at wide receiver this week. I think there are like, I never think stuff like this. I think there are like 25 playable wide receivers this week, which is crazy.
Well, that means that this is where you can get different if you want to, because the 5 highest owned as we sit right now, obviously the projections will update after the Friday injury report and on Saturday once we start seeing what people are doing. But Ayuk, Devonta Smith, DK, Olave, and Chris Godwin. Then Tank Dell and Deontay Johnson slightly after them in terms of ownership. At tight end, Kittle was going to be the highest owned and highest projected tight end of the week, but he did not practice on Thursday with a hamstring injury, and I get the sense that he's not playing.
I also get the sense that he's not playing, which means that, whatever...
McBride to the moon?
Yeah, McGronk probably at like 19% ownership, 20% now that we've got some real ways to save money. Bowers in this game against Carolina, I think we'll see pretty healthy double digits on him. What I will be most curious about is what do people do with Mark Andrews, who is, I mean, I don't know if I ever remember him being below 5,000. The role was better last week, still not what you want, only ran 75% of the routes. I believe his longest catch came in that prevent drive, like literally after the Raiders had went ahead. So I don't know how real you can count his production at, but likely snaps and routes went down as well from week 1. So I don't know. I think Andrews is probably, what does Noto always say? The guy I'm playing that you shouldn't. That's probably me with Andrews. Like, I probably am going to play a lot of Andrews, but it's not super high conviction, and I wouldn't say it's like a great idea.
I went over Kittle replacements for season-long fantasy football. I'm doing quick videos every morning on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, like 5 to 10 minutes. Like, here's what you missed, and here's just like the news of the day. So I came up with 4 tight end replacements for Kittle from the 4 p.m. games and on. If he ends up being a game time decision, if he's a game time decision, I would hold out for him. Like, unless it's very clear he's not playing. Like, the pickups at tight end are like Colby Parkinson is like the best one, who is actually a very interesting guy to go back to this week. Everyone wanted to play him last week. Now no one wants to play him. It's like Whittington. Like I thought that his ownership would track a lot higher for the Rams this week. Just no one wants any part of the Rams. Even Kyron's going to be like 5%.
Yeah, Kyron, I guess we probably should have mentioned him at running back. Kyron is like, especially with the 49ers so banged up and this maybe being a more competitive game, feels like Kyron is like a really good jam play. He'll probably end up being one of my most owned running backs. The Akers thing makes it a little bit more complicated, but I think it seems pretty strong. Yeah, the punt tight ends, it's like Noah Fant, Greg Dulcich, Hayden Hurst is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I think it's probably a good week to spend at tight end. I think I misspoke earlier. I think I said there were some okay cheap tight ends. There really aren't, actually.
Points per dollar, Goddard actually rates out the best at 4,600 against the Saints. Then it's Parkinson, then Bauer, then likely. Jatavion Sanders is the other one. Like if you believe that Dalton is back and he can actually complete passes, Sanders is the one who's out there running routes. He's the min. I did it in week 1. Bad idea.
Yeah, so Tommy Tremble was not active in week 1 and was active last week and ended up running more routes. So like if I'm going to play a real dust ball, like a guy who I think absolutely stinks and has no ceiling, I want it to be like Colby Parkinson, where he literally doesn't sub off the field. A concern I would have just while we're doing Colby Parkinson would be that he literally just blocks the entire game. The Rams guy that I'm playing is Tyler Johnson, which again is not pop. I've seen some crazy projections on Demarcus Robinson. I've seen like 13-point projections on Demarcus Robinson, which frankly seems a bit insane.
I would tend to agree with you on that front. Tommy Tremble 1 for 15 in the Dalton game last year. Ian Thomas 1 for 8. If you're thinking about how the tight ends did with Andy Dalton, he didn't really target them at all. They both had. Oh, Hayden Hurst was also 1 for 11. So there was 5 out of how many passes did he throw? 58 passes. 5 of them went towards tight ends, and there was 3 of them on the field. So maybe that's not the route that you want to go down. I think with the Rams guys, you pick your poison. Like I like Jordan Whittington. He's going to run all the Cooper Kupp routes. He's not going to be asked to block. He played every single Cooper Kupp snap the moment the Kupp left the game. Like he is a 1v1 replacement for that spot in this offense, which I hear is very valuable if you're Cooper Kupp. That would be the route that I would go for.
Yeah, TBD. Yeah, I mean, I got the only one that I think is probably bad is Robinson, because Robinson will be the combination of owned and like kind of unable to earn targets. Like Robinson is like a deep threat in this offense. I don't know how many times Stafford is going to have 3 seconds to uncork a deep ball. Feels unlikely to me.
We'll get to quarterbacks once we talk about the stacking that we're going to do this week. But defenses, you mentioned some cheap ones that you like. The Bucs seem to be the best projected versus value. They're $3,000 against Denver. And we spoke a little bit off air about, is Denver actually a good team to use defenses against? I think just because you said last week, they give up 5 sacks. Bo Nix kind of sucks. But Tampa, last time I checked on their roster, doesn't have TJ Watt, who made Atlanta's offensive line look putrid, and they were fine against Philadelphia. So that just might be a TJ Watt thing. He's the real disruptor. Don't go looking to Silicon Valley. TJ Watt is the true disruptor of 2024.
I mean, you're probably right. Like I honestly, I don't know that much about the defensive personnel of any of these teams. But I do know that Bo Nix stinks and that Bo Nix takes too many sacks and that Bo Nix looks really bad anytime he tries to throw past 10 yards. So those are all good recipes for it. And I mean, I believe he's already thrown 90 times through 2 games. Like that's really all you want with the defense is you want them facing 40 passing attempts.
But they're not quality pass attempts that you want to be facing because his ADOT's what, like -9?
Yeah, they're super check downs.
So I have 2. Like I think the 2 defenses you got to play this week just to save the money. You see substantial upside with them. There's probably even 3 really. I think the Bears are by far the best at 2,600. Then the Saints at 2,600. Then the Titans at 2,700. Those are the 3 that I'm mixing and matching out.
Yeah, Bears are number 1. And the Titans actually, I think, will end up getting a little bit under-owned because Malik Willis looked kind of competent last week.
Jordan Love might start. And I'm not shifting anything if Jordan Love starts. I'd bump up some of the Packers receivers, not enough to use them on DraftKings. Sure. But we've seen this way too many times now that the really elite quarterback comes back way too early from an injury and just sucks for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean he hasn't been able to get in a full practice. He's not going to be able to plant. Yeah, I think the plethora of cheap defense, it's always kind of interesting in these spots. What does the plethora of cheap defenses do to the slate? Because one, that means that the higher projected defenses actually become like huge leverage. Like the number one projection defenses, the Raiders, the Browns, the Colts actually against Caleb, like those are all going to be like 1% owned.
If Myles Garrett plays, which right now we don't know, he didn't practice on Thursday, I will find money in lineups to play the Browns D against Daniel Jones.
It's a good idea. Yeah, I mean you want to talk about a super easy way to create leverage while not giving anything up. Like just punt off one spot or just go down $500 at one wide receiver and you're going to pick up a ton of EB.
So what did I say Whittington was? Jordan Whittington is 4,200. Like
40, yeah.
Yeah, so instead of using Deontay Johnson, use Jordan Whittington, then pay up for Browns D if Garrett plays. Like that would be my move.
And that's I bet if you mess around with your settings and you put that into to runthesims.com, that is going to be a lineup that the Sims will like because that's an example of not giving up that much of projection but gaining a ton in ownership.
A few years back, the irons were the best part of my golf game. But after a swing change about 2.5 years ago, my driver's an absolute weapon at this point, but all of a sudden I couldn't hit my long irons, and even some of my short irons just were not going on the same trajectory that I always wanted them to, or at least that they used to do. So when I heard how the new PXG Black Ops irons can dramatically improve my game, of course I had to give them a try, anything to improve my golf game. So I called up PXG and I got my current irons and I took the PXG Irons Challenge and it has been amazing. The consistency off the club face is unparalleled to any club that I have ever used. Best thing about these irons is because I feel so comfortable that I'm gonna hit the sweet spot on them, I can control the club face, the high, the low, the cut, the draw, no problem. And the new PXG Black Ops irons are the game improvement missile launchers that are going to give you explosive distance, and it's going to feel softer than a baby bunny. The new Black Ops irons are incredibly easy to hit and maximize performance and fun, because getting better is fun. Oh, and they're only $149.99 a stick. That's a great price for a great golf iron. Take the PXG Irons Challenge. It's a ton of fun, and if PXG's new Black Ops irons don't outperform your current irons by delivering either more distance or tighter dispersion, that means better accuracy, during your fitting, you'll get a $100 MasterCard rewards card. Hurry! This offer ends October 7th. Book your fitting today at pxg.com. That's pxg.com. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Supercharger, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. Let's talk lineups for week number 3. I have the optimal loaded in from runthesims.com right now. It does not have Cam Akers in it because I went and made some custom changes to it and didn't want to include Cam Akers, but Akers would be in this lineup. It's Geno as the quarterback, Charbonnet and Mason and A-Chain as the 3 running backs, Shaheed at 53, Devonta Smith at 69, Malik Neighbors at 64, Colby Parkinson at $3,600 with the Buccaneers defense is what the optimal is telling us. Obviously, Cam Akers is going to be in the majority of optimal lineups that get printed. I just wanted to, I'm just not feeling Cam Akers at all.
I mean, that's probably going to be, if I had to guess, I'm going to guess that makes you money. I'm going to guess that if you just went into this slate with no knowledge that Cam Akers was starting for $4,700 DraftKings dollars against the Minnesota Vikings, and you just excluded him, and the field plays him at 35%, I'm going to guess just going to guess that ends up being profitable. Not high conviction because I'm probably not going to follow it myself, but I think you're probably right.
I think I'd rather play Akers than Charbonnet because of the price difference and what it allows me to do with the rest of my lineup. But just those two guys, just bad feelings, which means they're both going to score 35 DraftKings points. So you should probably play them. And well, I have DeAndre Swift for 3 points, but that's where I'm going. This is how I like to lose.
I am gonna play Cam Akers. What I will do, this is how I will I'll cope with myself, is I'll probably do at least one CJ Stroud, Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins team, or CJ Stroud, Justin Jefferson, Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, Justin Jefferson, Diggs, some combination of that, where that team will not have Cam Akers because there are only so many touchdowns to go around. And that's how I'll hedge. I'll just put all my eggs in that team.
Let's start there, building lineups then. Let's build the Texans-Vikings game stack without Cam Akers and see how that looks. So you mentioned Jefferson. Would you go, in this sort of stack, would you go Jefferson or Naylor? Because it looks like, because Naylor's only 4,400, it's a great way to save money. They're using him, like he runs routes that end in the end zone. That's always positive. Now, if Addison plays, obviously you don't want to use him. But is there a way you go like Naylor and Jefferson? Like that's a good way to save some Jefferson money if you wanted to, and then go Stroud and Collins?
It is a good way to save money. I don't know. Minnesota's been a pretty low volume passing. Darnold is maxed out at 26 pass attempts through games. Obviously, those were games they won.
Yes.
I probably wouldn't. I think I would just rather do Tank Dell. Tank Dell's only $800 more than Naylor and like projects like 9 points better. So I probably would just do Dell.
So let's try that. So a $7,100 Stroud, Tank Dell at 52, Justin Jefferson at 86. I think we're overlooking that Collins is the guy in this offense, that he kind of has to be in this lineup.
He's the guy. Yes, he is the guy. I've not tried to build one of these yet with Jefferson and Nico together, but we can definitely try it. I don't even know what it will look like, honestly.
The problem is that this is the sort of lineup that you kind of need to have Cam Akers in to save the money, but we'll try to do it otherwise.
Save the money.
Let's see. It's a 3-1. I mean, you could just throw in Naylor to save a bunch of money if you really wanted to, and just do a 3-2.
You could. That is. I don't love that. Because then Darnold is 5,500, and if we've got two of his guys, and we're saying those guys end up being optimal, then we'd probably just rather do Darnold, which
you could think of it that way.
Could get away with.
You could do. I mean, we can build up the Darnold side, which is probably the easier side to do in this game. I guess the way that you would have to think about it if you're trying to play out that story is that Jefferson gets his and comes through with a long touchdown or whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean that Darnold gets there at the same time, or he just picks up a ton along the way, same as Naylor, because they're really the only two guys. Like Brandon Powell, sure, he's going to be on the field. Johnny Muntz is going to be up there, but maybe there's a lot of Aaron Jones rushing, or he rushes in for 2 touchdowns, and he might actually be not necessarily the guy that you need, but he takes away from the bottom line of these guys, and they just all rake it up through receptions, volume, and yardage, and then Darnold doesn't get there at the same time, but the other side does. It's not a high probability strategy to do. So, okay, let's try that. Well, let's go Stroud, Dell, Jefferson.
None of them are high probability. That's the thing. At the end of the day, none of these things we're doing are particularly high probability.
Let's throw in Bears. Let's throw in
it.
Bears D. That gets us back up to 4,800. So we probably have to punt off tight end. If Taysom Hill doesn't play, he's questionable. He did return to a limited practice on Thursday. Would you play Juwanna Mann Johnson?
Yeah. I would do him. I do like him.
Jonnu?
My vomit is Greg Dulcich. The true vomit plays. Greg Dulcich had 8 targets last week. Now he looked awful. He looked so bad, but he did get 8 targets last week, which is a lot for a $2,900 player.
Let's do it. Let's throw in a $2,900 player. Now we're back up to 54. Now we can start massaging the running backs a little bit. I think this is a perfect spot to spend the $6,200 and get Jordan Mason into this game. You could
Absolutely.
I mean, I said that like Whittington is potentially on the board here, but we have $5,000 left, and we need to find some money for a running back. Again, this is where Cam Akers would come in handy, although he doesn't fit this lineup. It's specifically designed to not include Cam Akers. So who is the next cheapest guy? It's between basically Zamir White, Chuba. Chuba Hubbard's only 52, if you want to go that route.
I think I like Zamir White better. We could play
I like Swift
Juwan
better.
Jennings. Sure, we can do Swift. We can do Swift. We could do Juwan Jennings in the flex, and that gives us extra money to spend.
We already have Jordan Mason in this lineup. We're not building a cash lineup, so I mean, I guess independently
I don't really
could have both. That's fine, but
I don't love Jennings anyways. I just was seeing if there was anyone else who
we
is
could
like
we could throw
actually
we
cheap.
could throw Whittington into the flex at 42, who I like, and then he runs opposite Jordan Mason in that game, and then it gives us 5,900 for a running back, which is not quite enough for my guy Tony
yeah, it
Pollard.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, like that's really the dead zone. So we can throw Swift in as the running back at 56, and we technically have up to $4,500 to play with here for the flex if we wanted to move up from Whittington, although he kind of correlates in this lineup a little bit. And I don't really see anyone else.
I don't see anything great. Yeah,
or you could bring tight end up to 3,200 if there's anyone there.
There probably isn't. Dulcich is probably the best.
Akins is really the only guy.
And Akins didn't play as many snaps last week as I thought he would. He lost snaps to a guy I've literally never heard of. Someone Whitehead, never heard of him before, but he played like 30% of the snaps.
Yeah, there's no cheaper defense that I really feel comfortable going to here. Like maybe Cardinals D. Like sometimes I like to take bad defenses in shootout games and just pray for a pick six. It worked out with the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs' defensive touchdown on the fumble recovery from Burrow is actually what won me the money last week.
Incredible. Yeah, I mean the Cardinals smashed the Rams last week.
That was the Rams.
Well, I don't know.
Detroit can
Jared
block.
Goff, 55 pass attempts for Jared Goff. I'd take any defense. I would take any defense. I would take Chattanooga against any team with 55 pass attempts. Just you could get points that way.
Is it worth it to you in this lineup that we drop Bears D to Cardinals D and get back up to $6,200, and then we could have one of Rachaad White, David Montgomery, Charbonnet, or Tony Pollard in this lineup? Like, is that difference worth it to you?
In a vacuum, yes, because I think Swift is a bad play. Or not a bad play, but just not a play I want to make. But that's your boy. We got to ride with your boy.
Let's do that then. And it correlates well too, because you got Bears D with DeAndre Swift, Mason with Whittington, and then you have the stack of the other games. So let's throw that one in. And do you want to build out the Darnold side?
Yes. Yeah. Got to build a Darnold one.
All right. So Darnold. I mean, I think it kind of writes itself. It's Darnold, Jefferson, and Naylor, right?
Yeah. And I think on this one,
Akers?
Let's do Diggs. No, we can do Akers on this one.
I was going to say Colin and Akers.
So let me tell you why I want to do. I will be paying a little bit of Diggs. You know me, Pat. I don't always
Diggs.
I don't always fall for the narratives, but this one, I mean, how many targets is he going to get on their first 15 scripted plays? This is Stephon Diggs' first game back in Minnesota since he got traded. He's getting a minimum of one specifically designed end zone target play. Maybe he has one catch for 7 yards and a touchdown, but they're definitely going to try.
We'll throw Bears D back into this one. You can mix them with the Saints again at the same price if you want to.
Titans.
I just think that the Eagles' offense looks broken without A.J. Brown. Like, without him on the field, they're not a good offense.
Yeah. I mean, Devonta Smith, I think, is gonna absolutely rack up the targets this week. But you are right.
Sure, but
might just be Saquon Barkley.
It might be Barkley, but they're gonna try to play a lower scoring game. Now, you kind of like when we build out Saints, I think the move is to just jam Saints and then Barkley and Goddard and Smith, Barkley and Goddard, or like some combination of those two guys, just playing catch up the entire time.
Could definitely be that. Let's do Mason. I mean, again, I probably will just play Mason on all these teams.
Yeah, I think I will too. So that leads us with the tight end and flex 5,700. I think this is a good spot. Like you can go to Brock Bowers pretty easily.
I was going to say Bowers or McBride.
Because James, how much is James Conner? 66. I was going to say Connor's Laporta if that would work, but it doesn't. Do you think this is a Laporta week?
I don't know if it is a Laporta week in the terms of how many touchdowns or how many fantasy points he will get. It's definitely a Laporta week in that he is going to be 4% owned and will probably run the single most routes at the position this week in the highest scoring game. Seems crazy that the ownership discrepancy between McBride and Laporta in the same game is going to be like a huge gulf. Like it might be like 15%, 20% McBride, and like 5% Laporta. That is definitely exploitable.
So if you throw in Bowers, it leaves you exactly enough for Charbonnet, but I like Pollard better than Charbonnet, so I'll play Pollard. But Charbonnet is probably the logical end to this lineup.
It's a pretty good team right there. That right there, that if we ran some of our settings, if we ran, top Darnold lineups on runthesims.com, pretty sure that would give us a plus EV team right there.
What game do you want to move to next?
Let's do a Detroit, Arizona. Let's fire a Detroit, Arizona team. Let's do Kyler, McBride, and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Kyler.
I mean, that just might be the winner right there. What a team.
I mean,
it's crazy.
McBride and Amon-Ra. So we have 4,700. Let's use Saints D in this one because they're the other cheap one. Just we keep using the Bears. Jordan Mason at running back. Make it easy on ourselves. This feels like a Cam Akers team if there ever was one.
For sure, yeah. If you're not using any of Stroud's pass catchers, Akers becomes way better in those lineups because that's kind of the he can't hurt you lineup.
So now, do we have a paid down option, or do we want to stick in? Because we have 5,000 left for these three spots: receiver, flex. Is there a cheap receiver? Would this be? I mean, I said Whittington earlier. I think that he's like kind of a sort of like Akers to me, the guy I would pay down for. Maybe it's Jalen McMillan, who's in the $3,000 range, who I do like a little bit as well, because you can go like Adam Thielen in this lineup pretty easily at $5,000, $100 more, and then you can.
No, let's do Whittington on this one.
We need to fill out 2 wide receiver spots. And that gives us, if we do that, I mean, it leaves us with fucking Charbonnet. Go Thielen, Whittington, $6,000 left.
I don't hate it. I mean, Thielen and Whittington together feels insanely dusty. Like those guys can definitely combine for like
0 points.
I was gonna say like 7 points, but yeah, it's not ideal. It's not what you want. But I'm looking at that team and I'm like, dude, if we can get Whittington a touchdown and if we can get Thielen 7 catches, I mean that might be the winner right there. I wonder if Dortch or Michael Wilson makes more sense. I don't even know their prices, but I wonder in a non-Marvin Harrison Jr. lineup if they make more sense.
Well, you know what? Michael Wilson's actually $100 cheaper than Whittington. Where's Tim?
Does that get you off?
Where's Tim Patrick? Tim Patrick's 3,300. Now we're talking.
Wow. Now we're cooking. Now we can get up to the $7,000 range at flex. Maybe
I know you're usually a Dortch guy. I just prefer Michael Wilson. I think he's better.
No, Michael. He's not better, but he's definitely much more likely to score a touchdown, which is kind of what we're doing in DFS. So I got no issue with that.
Yeah. So the only thing this does for us, it opens up. I mean, Addison if he plays, which he probably won't. Lockett and Myers at receiver if that's the way we want to go. I think I'd just rather stick with Adam Thielen. Just leave $100 on the table.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. And a Kyler double.
Actually, you know what this does? Let's do this. Okay, I guess that's take out Charbonnet. Yeah, so take out Charbonnet. Keep in Adam Thielen, and do you know who that leaves us for as a flex?
Someone not named Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, because we have that $100 kicking around. David Montgomery to fill out the stack.
Sure. There you go. Yeah. That's that game ends 48-44 and Michael Wilson scores 3 tuds because we all know Trey McBride is allergic to the end zone unless he's recovering a fumble.
That's okay. He can still go like 9 for 91 and get there.
No, 9 for 90 probably makes him the highest scoring tight end of the week by a lot
of the season by 10
scoring
points.
Tight end ever. I mean his role is so good.
Like, do you envision yourself getting to any Marvin McBride, Harrison, Murray? Our play of the week last week on the show was Marvin Harrison Jr. It made the most logical sense in the world to play this guy who, can't catch, can't run, everything like that. So just play him against the beat up Rams defense. And that's going to work out well, and no one's going to own him. It feels like it's now shifted back the other way, where now everyone wants to play him. That he's probably a good fade this week.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., he was also my favorite play last week. He was everyone's favorite play. So funny how that works, though. He was everyone's favorite probably last week, but he was only like 6% owned, which is just that is a bit bizarre. But yeah, I probably won't play him at all this week because there was a spot for him in lineups last week, just kind of at that range at wide receiver. There's not really a spot for him this week because uh you want to try and get at least one CD team. You want to play some St. Brown, but then Devonta, Nico, Ayuk, Metcalf, Adams, Olave, Godwin, these guys all project better than him. Malik Neighbors is legit $1,000 less than him. It's just harder to put him in this week.
So let's go to the other side. We'll do Goff with Amon-Ra, Laporta, McBride, and Connor. How do you feel about that? McBride can become Michael Wilson pretty quickly to save money.
I probably wouldn't do that. I would play that. If you want to bring back, I would do Marvin Harrison Jr. Because Marvin Harrison Jr.'s got way more ceiling. Right?
What if Connor just rushes everything in?
Yeah, I think I'd probably just do one bring back with Goff. Okay. I don't know.
Hey, let's do Connor. We'll throw him in. That always diversifies our portfolio a little bit at running back instead of using the same 3 guys over and over. But I will throw Jordan Mason into there. So we have $4,600. This is a Cam Akers spot, right?
Gotta be, yeah. You see how easy it is. I mean,
I'm gonna try to do it without him because we don't need another running back. We can use Whittington. Who did I say? Jalen McMillan. I do like. Where's he at? I mean, Jalen Naylor is a one-off at $4,400 in that game. Isn't crazy.
I think I like Jalen Tolbert more as a one-off. He got a bunch of deep targets last week.
How much of that do you think was because when I was going through the routes run, it was like, yeah, obviously they got into a blowout. He ran the most routes and played the most snaps, and obviously CD was a little bit banged up. But how much do you think his inclusion in that offense last week was because they didn't really feel like playing Schoonmaker or the other tight end? And Schoonmaker. Sorry, didn't realize you were the Germans. But Jake Ferguson being out led actively. That was like a 1v1. Hey, we're not going to play as much tight end personnel. We'll just play Tolbert as a receiver where we would normally have Jake Ferguson in that spot. Now with Ferguson back, is Tolbert actually going to see the field?
I think it's one of those things where the trust is probably pretty low with Jalen Tolbert and the trust is just a lot higher with Ferguson, but he played pretty well. And generally speaking, when guys like that who are kind of on the margins, who are like kind of in a competition, it's kind of like Jalen Brooks, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, like who's going to get the third most targets on that team. When you have a good game, when you play well, when you get open, like the coaches are going to notice that stuff. And I think it's going to beget more usage in the future.
I mean, he was the reason. I think that he is the main reason that game got so lopsided to begin with. His like slip on the first Dak pick. I mean, that shouldn't have been a pick. It should have been hit and stride to Tolbert and just goes the other way. And then the game is over. So maybe they're not looking too fondly at that.
No, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. I to be honest, the way I'm building, I think I'll probably just use these Ram shitters. Is kind of I like the Whittington, Demarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnson. Those guys feel best to me. This is a pretty good team. This team could ship. This is a good one.
So Whittington and Naylor are the two like dart throws here in the $4,000 range to save you the money, but it does give you enough for Shaheed in the flex.
Shaheed will be 9% after just scoring a 70-yard touchdown every single week, and Cam Akers might get 20 chances to advance the ball and not get as many yards as Rashid Shaheed will on one reception.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you really want to play this by the book, you put in Akers as your flex. But there's not really, I mean, I guess maybe it gets you up to Deontay Johnson from Jalen Naylor, and honestly, they're probably about this. Naylor probably has more upside.
I'm having a really hard time with Deontay Johnson. Like, my instinct is to not play guys like that. Like, who are just like, oh man, the only way I can get there is if this guy on a terrible team catches 9 passes. But he's going to be so popular and the projections are so hot on him. Like, every projection system is like, this guy, this is Amon-Ra St. Brown at 4,900. I hate, I don't know if you feel this way. I hate to get buried by shitty players that people who I think are bad at fantasy like when Bryce Young got benched for Andy Dalton.
It's no different of me not wanting to play Charbonnet this week. It's the same instinct.
It's exactly the same thing. I am just personally biased against Deontay Johnson. We are having the same conversation about different players.
Yeah, and I do think the very logical pivot is the guy who's $100 more expensive and like 1/10 the ownership on his team.
100%. Yeah. No, you are right. You are right. And I am wrong.
So Goff with Amon-Ra Laporta, the bring back of Connor, just the one bring back. Then you go Jordan Mason, Whittington, Naylor. You have Shaheed in the flex and Bears D. And that rounds out your lineup. So that's the way that we'll play that game for the lineups on the show. And obviously we've given you different ways that you can have outs in this. Do you want to build up Dallas and Baltimore?
Yes, I do. I'm very interested in this.
I don't even know where to start here. Like, I have guys I'm just going to put a line through. Any running back in this game, line through your name.
Yeah, 0, no. Henry, negative juice. Cowboys playing 3 running backs, not interested. I think it's a Lamar Andrews week.
All right, Lamar Andrews. That makes it easy. Do you just throw Zay into that as well? He's the guy.
No,
or do you play Bateman, who keeps getting these shots down the field? He's out there every snap, and they keep hitting him with deep looks. He's just not bringing them down.
I would probably not double stack.
Bateman is 38.
Lamar Jackson.
$100. Like
I would rather play Tolbert.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I'd rather play Bateman if I'm using Lamar as my quarterback. I just feel
like Lamar's explosion games he runs for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, don't you think?
Then why play anyone?
Maybe not. Well, because Andrews is 4,800 and he can, and it's also tight end. So
but like this is the cheapest stack you'll ever build with Lamar. Like Bateman at 38, Andrews at 48, Lamar at 75. You still have a ton of money here to play CD.
That's true. I'm gonna pull up runthesims.com. We're gonna do some live. I want to see what the top most optimal plus EV Lamar Andrews combinations are, and I want to see how often we get Bateman in them.
All right, you pull those up while I continue constructing this lineup. So Jackson with Bateman, Lamb, and Andrews leaves us, again, 5,000. It seems like every build that we start off with leads us in exactly the same place every single time, and hence why you're seeing such a concentration of ownership in a lot of these spots. So let's go Bears D. And we're at 56, and we'll throw Jordan Mason back in here too. I wonder if the play is actually these top-end running backs. Like, let's figure out a way
to... Barkley.
Yeah. Because it's so easy to get to the other running backs that we've talked about, be it those 3. They're just off the hop. Mason, Charbonnet, and Akers. Either 2 or 3 of them all in the same lineup. So let's go off the board a little bit here. Not off the board, because obviously he's going to be pretty popular. But if we're playing Mason, I'm going to play Kyron on the other side of him. And just have that be the bring back in that game. And now we're at 4,600.
I'm not gonna lie, this is a good team. This is a good team. Let's do Tank Dell.
Dell and Naylor? No,
Dell.
It brings us to 4,000 is the problem if you go to Dell at 52.
Okay. Do we have anyone at 4,000 that we like? Even close?
I mean, there's a bunch of guys on IR who aren't bad. We can play them.
I'm trying to see if there's anyone.
Deuce Vaughn?
Sub.
Patrick Ricard.
It'd be like Elijah Moore.
I mean, Elijah Moore was projected to be the best points per dollar play on Run the Sims.
All right, let's do Elijah Moore.
He's only 36.
This is
he's only 3,600. We could play him in the Tank Dell spot and then create up to $5,600 for a flex if you wanted to.
All right, let's do that.
All right, so let's as a onesie, we'll go Elijah Moore for 36. I'm saving so much money by Washington playing on Monday night and Noah Brown not being able for me to jam into every lineup.
Why? What is the Noah Brown deal? Does Freeman just love Noah Brown?
No, I Noah Brown. I played it. I came second in the 150 last year in the game when he went nuts, and I played him. So
when he went nuts,
so I won like 20 grand off of him, and just
so that's your boy.
Like logically speaking, he looked the best of all the Washington receivers last week, and he played like 30% of the snaps. I think he led all receivers in receiving, and just his style of play, I think, is perfect for Jaden Daniels. Like he's going, like you mentioned Leggett earlier, how he's going to be, he's fast, but he's going to be one of these yak guys. I mean, that is Noah Brown. He's a big body. He goes over the middle. He can stiff arm and then turn downfield and create huge chunk plays after the catch. Like, isn't that who you want with Jaden Daniels? Like he's going to create space and buy time in the backfield. Then he's going to hit Brown on one of these crossers, but the defense is going to be so out of sorts because the play has been extended by 10 yards that he's just going to roam down the field. And all the other guys suck. Like Diami Brown is terrible.
Oh, he is bad. So the issue is you want to have some called stuff. Like you want to have like some percentage of first read stuff, and all the plays that Cliff Kingsbury is dialing up are, it's awful. It's like Jaden Daniels has, I believe, the 4th lowest ADOT in the NFL. Like it's just all horizontal. So it's like the worst stuff. I probably just won't stack Jaden at all when I play him. I will probably just play him
in your high stakes leagues for season long. Pick up Noah Brown.
All right, I'll spend $1. I got a bunch of Luke McCaffrey that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that was Cuss called him the breakout player of the year. So yeah, just drop him.
Okay, all right. Well, I didn't know that when I was clicking the button, and now I feel worse about it.
So I put in Elijah Moore at 36. That gets me up to DeAndre Swift to pair with Bears D in the flex. So I'll go that route.
You are riding or dying with DeAndre Swift.
Did you get those Sims out yet, or is it still going?
No, it's simmed. There is not a single plus EV Lamar double stack.
Not one. Wow. Well, I guess I'm going to have to enter the one and go against the grain on this.
Well, again, if I moved the Baltimore Ravens to a 40% run rate instead of I think 52% or whatever, yeah, then they become great. But Sims can only know what we tell them.
So we'll just do a single stack. We'll go Andrews with Jackson because of the price point. Is CD have to be the guy that you run it back with, or would you run it back with like Cooks? I mean, you want Tolbert, but I'd save him for the Dak. I'd save him for the Dak portion.
I don't even think you have to do a run back with Lamar, because I believe Lamar's 2 biggest ever career games, the Dolphins game and the Rams game, the other teams did not contribute to the lineup at all.
Okay.
When he ended up being in the millionaire squads. Do you
want to build the Dak side, or do you care?
No, I don't really want to build the. I feel like Dak is very hard for Dak now that he doesn't run at all to end up kind of being the optimal guy in a week. Like I might rather play Sam Darnold than Dak this week on DraftKings.
Okay, so we've built out those 3 games. Is there another one you want to go to? Should we try to do what was the other high total one? Philly and New Orleans? Because I feel like the options are pretty simplistic.
Oh yeah, that's easy. Let's do a Derek Carr double with Devonta Smith.
Who is the double besides Shaheed? Does it have to be Olave?
Yeah.
Okay. Just seeing, like, if Taysom misses the game, you could use Juwan Johnson if you wanted to. What happened to A.T.
Sure.
Perry? What happened to A.T. Perry?
He stinks, and much like all his other players, the coach hates him. Dennis Allen hates him.
Does he like anybody?
Taysom. That's
Besides
the one
Taysom.
guy he likes. So one guy he likes. Maybe he likes Carr now. Maybe he's a fan of Derek Carr now after these results. But it's so funny. This game is awesome. Like, projects awesome from the outside. Will be so funny if at the end 17-14 Derek Carr looks like shit. It's just all Alvin Kamara has 9 receptions for 11 yards. Like, it will be the conversation that is so breathless about Clint Kubiak in the offense. It'll be so funny if the screws turn.
You go Carr, Olave, Shaheed with Devonta Smith, and then you have $5,100 left. Do you want to throw in Goddard? Go Goddard Barkley maybe instead of Smith, or do you just think Smith is the guy?
I think Smith is the guy. I mean,
Okay.
he had 60% of the targets last week. I mean, it's just they got no one. Oh no, that's not true, because Britton Covey had 9 targets for 9 yards,
And he had high leverage targets too.
Yeah, he did. Britton Covey had more receptions in that game than in the prior 3 years of his NFL career.
Let's throw in let's throw in Covey. He looks like oddshopper.com's Greg.
I, I want the viewers to know I am not clicking Britton Covey in daily fantasy sports
All right,
contest this
all right.
weekend.
I will get rid of him then. You've convinced me. So this 3-1, you think works out here, or like, do you want to throw in another Eagle?
No, I think this works. This tells us you obviously could play Barkley in this, but you definitely don't, and it might not even work out salary wise for us.
So Mason, Akers, Bears D because we're playing Saints offense.
And by the way, this is a great team to do Mason and Akers because you are already so far away from the chalk playing Shaheed, Olave, and Devonta together in a lineup that I mean, you could literally play whoever, like Laporta, boom. Like we can just totally chalk this one up. You could play Charbonnet on this one. You could play McBride on this one. It totally doesn't matter.
Who do you like the best of McBride, Laporta, and Bowers? I think Bowers might actually be the better play.
McBride, Bowers, Laporta, but those will be like in my lineups that I play. I'll probably have one of those three guys on every team. Now, obviously, if Kittle does somehow find a way to play, it's different because Schefter did leave the door open for whatever that means. He did leave the door open for him playing, and that'll change things a bit.
Okay, I've almost figured this out. Vikings, Panthers, Cardinals, or Rams D?
Let's do the Vikings. The Vikings, that Brian Flores defense, dude.
We are playing
nightmares.
like. Would you be okay playing Vikings D against Cam Akers? Like, do you care?
Sure.
I don't care.
No, it's Cam Akers. The only thing valuable about Cam Akers is his salary. Everything else about him is like relatively useless.
Okay, so here's the lineup. Carr with Olave, Shaheed, and Devonta Smith. Mason and Akers as the running back. Brock Bowers is the tight end. Vikings D, and that leaves you enough money for A-Chain in the flex.
There we go. Beautiful. That is a beautiful fit. I think this is the winner. Label this one. I want 10% when we
have we? I like your optimism on every lineup we build. Usually it's Tambo sitting across from me. He's like, this projects 34 points below the optimal.
Oh, here's the thing. I know what I'm doing here in this program. I am not here to fact check you. That is not what we're doing. I don't need to have the Sims up being like, oh my god, this is negative 72% ROI. This is good vibes on a Friday morning, man. Good vibes.
I like where your head's at with this. I'm feeling it this week. I'm gonna lose all the money I won last week is getting donated back to you good people this week if you want to play me. So that's how we're doing that game. I don't really care about the Philly side. One more. Let's pick a game. Like, do you want to do a Tampa Bay onslaught? Because I don't love that. I mentioned earlier, like you mentioned.
Oh, let's do Miami, Seattle. Gino, JSN, A-Chain.
Just those three?
We could do Tyreek. I do not hate using Tyreek.
There is no chance I'm using Tyreek if Skylar Thompson's not my quarterback. Like, if we're doing a game stack here, I'm just going to the other side.
Skylar Thompson can get 16 points in a game that Tyreek has 35. Easy. Like, very easily.
Maybe? Okay, so...
I would almost say it's more likely that Skylar Thompson does nothing in a game that Tyreek goes nuts. Because Tyreek will get a couple rushing attempts. You know, McDaniel's going to have, like, Jonnu throw a pass. Like, McDaniel is going to be in... This is what I'm projecting in any lineup where I am playing Dolphins players, is that Mike McDaniel is going to be in his bag to figure out a way to win a game. Like a winnable game. This is a winnable game for the Miami Dolphins. You know, a good team in the Seahawks, but not a great team in the Seahawks. Like if they were going on the road to Kansas City or San Francisco or Buffalo this week, I'd be like, well, yeah, they're just going to get shellacked. Like there's no point. But this is a winnable game. I think...
Would you throw in... Because Jonnu's so cheap and he opens up a ton of money. Would you play him at tight end in this lineup just to throw in another guy from the game?
Sure. Anytime you're not playing one of the premier tight ends, they're all the same. It's like basically what you're saying is tight end doesn't matter this week. That we have a repeat of week 1
and 2.
where... No, McBride got the 15 last week.
That's
so
not.
He matters.
Listen, if your best tight end, your highest price tight end gets to 15 points, you could have played anyone at tight end.
I think full PPR he actually got 17, but it doesn't matter. Your 17 matters. 11 points, they're all the same. 17 points can matter. If one guy scores 17 and everyone else scores 11, that can matter.
So we go Geno,
Dude,
JSN,
we are cooking with gas on this team.
A-Chain, and Smith. I threw in Jordan Mason and I threw in Bears D because I'm throwing them everywhere I can. So we have 2 receiver spots and a flex, and we do have a $6,600 average left now.
Yeah, so now this will be let's play Nico on this team.
Yeah,
That'll be weird. That most people won't do that.
Standalone Nico. If we play Thielen, who I like, $7,500.
Barkley or Kamara.
Yeah, you can play Kamara, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jonathan Taylor.
Oh my God, Kamara, ship it. This is we won again. We're going to be splitting with ourselves. It's beautiful. How do we do it? Incredible.
Is there a way we can work DK into this lineup? Do a triple stack?
Yeah, you go down from Kamara.
Here, I'll take out Nico and put in Metcalf. And let's take out Kamara and John.
We can play Tyreek.
We could play Tyreek. Would you want to play A-Chain and Tyreek, or do you take A-Chain out then?
I feel like actually, like if you know that Tyreek has a good game, I feel like that honestly makes it like more likely A-Chain has a good game because it just means the offense worked.
Good vibes,
you know?
Like they're running their offense like we're building lineups. Just it's gonna be a vibes based offense.
They both 2 times last year they were in A-Chain and Tyreek were in the optimal
without
which is
Tua.
a pretty. I don't remember if Tua was in it or not, but actually the first time A-Chain won someone $1 million, Tua was not in the lineup. I actually know that's true.
That makes sense.
So it literally, if you think about the way the Dolphins offense works, it does literally make sense. It's like these guys are Tua is the least relevant part to how the whole thing works.
So you can play Elijah Moore and Mark Andrews if you wanted to, but you like Dulcich as the paydown guy.
I mean, like is definitely a big word.
Well, I would say if you play Dulcich, that gives you enough money for DeAndre Swift.
Oh, dude. When DeAndre Swift has 16 carries for 19 yards this week, I'm going to be thinking of you.
Thank you.
I am going to be thinking of you.
Thank you. But you also think of me when he has 19 carries for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns, too. Because the whole impetus behind playing him is that the Colts give up so many chunk plays on the ground. And Swift looks as fast as he always has. He just gets tackled the first time he gets touched every single time. But there might be an opportunity against the Colts where he just runs for 70 yards and no one touches him. Like that's
definitely true.
Like that's the play. Like he's going to get the volume we know, but it's not so much that I'm looking for him to grind out a 19 for 82 and 2 touchdown game. I'm looking for like 17 for 130 and he breaks off the big one.
Sure. I mean, DeAndre Swift is a bad running back, but he does break off 60-yard touchdowns at a higher frequency than Cam Akers does. That is indubitably true.
All right. I think that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Getting you ready. All good vibes lineups. They're all winners. This is good news. Was there?
I think you're rich. This might be the last show. You're going to be so rich when you're done. You're going to be like, I don't need to work anymore.
My guy, I'm already so rich. I don't even need to work, but I do it anyway for the love of the game.
For the love of the game.
You know how much PXG money I'm getting these days? Buy some PXG clubs. Use the code Mayo.
I'd love to. I'm not rich. I do still have to work. You know, I'm in the YouTube trenches every day. It's miserable, man. My boss, myself, is making me work nonstop, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people could probably see through my wealthy facade that I'm doing like 5-minute updates on YouTube every single morning that I don't have to do to keep grinding.
You are, you're addicted to the grind, though. You are definitely the type of guy where if you didn't have something to grind, you develop like a cocaine habit or something. Like
listen, I can grind a cocaine habit. Don't worry about me. I'll just start grinding that out. It's a bit more price. Listen, I'm losing money on DraftKings every week. I'm losing money betting. I'm losing money on Underdog. And just shift all that to buying cocaine. It's all the same. I'll be real skinny.
You would be really skinny. You'd probably for about 3 months you'd be great at running, and then you would be ass at running. It'd start out really well, and then it would go downhill fast.
During the summertime, I grind golf, but now I'm out of the grind. I played 9 holes yesterday morning, and I was awful. Like just not having played in 2 weeks, it's just I'm done. The golf season's over. For me.
I have no time to golf, and I miss it. I miss it really bad. My last rounds were not particularly good. Last summer I was playing all right. This summer I'm much worse. So, I'm in the trenches right now.
If people enjoy the YouTube channel, please subscribe, get us to 50K subs, and go subscribe to Davis's channel at the same time as well. What is your content schedule over there? Because I know you're doing the live shows every day.
Yeah, basically I stream every day, and then I do a game by game show that comes out on Thursday mornings every week. So that is produced content. That's it's about 75 minutes game by game with Jacob Sanderson. And then all my premium stuff like my rankings, my DFS top plays, Dynasty, all that stuff is over on patreon.com/Davis Mattek. So if you want to support me, subscribe to the YouTube and check out the stuff on Patreon if you're a real fantasy football nerd.
I will be back on Saturday with a full injury breakdown, a rankings update, the cheap DraftKings plays, and updated ownership, along with underdog pick'em plays. Did you find any underdog? Like just something like there's a CD Lamb free square this week. You can use that, and you won an 8-banger. That's the way to use these free squares, right? Don't do like, oh man, $10 on 2 picks to win 30. No, it's 10 to win $1,000.
It's 10 to win 1,000. I mean, I don't know how smart it is, but that is the way that I use the underdog stuff.
Any free offer that you get, be it a bonus bet, like if a sportsbook gives you like a $50 credit or whatever, like push that to the limit. Like try to win big off that. It's a free bet.
Yeah, number one pick of the week is the when you're on the underdog app, you can press the little button to scroll and get better odds. You could do that if you go on. I'll actually just pull up exactly what it is right now. So it's Justin Jefferson. It might change a little bit. His actual yardage prop is, I believe, 76.5 receiving yards. If you move it to 99, you get the 1.56x multiplier. That's my favorite play of the week. Justin Jefferson higher, 99.5 receiving yards.
I did that in week 1, and I was like, easy game after the first
easy.
half. And then just they didn't pass in the second half.
I had it last week. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm gonna have Justin Jefferson hires every week, and they're probably gonna lose 9 times. But when they hit, they're gonna. Well, they might not lose. He looks unbelievable. He looks like the best player in football right now.
Don't forget he's hurt coming into this week. Like he's not so hurt he's not going to play, but he's not 100%.
He is hurt, and I don't care, man. I don't care.
I like it.
I don't care.
Like where your head's at on this one. RunTheSims.com.
The vibes. I told you the vibes are good, man. The vibes are good. We're just gonna win this week. We're just gonna win.
I hope so. Listen, I'm going to Montreal next week and funding this whole President's Cup trip. So need some extra cash on the go.
You do need some extra cash. Talk to your friends at Underdog and see if they can get me out there.
Kenny's already in my DMs being like the international team is winning. So great. I'm going to end up losing money on that because they're not winning.
Because they're not winning.
They have like Matt Hughes on their team against Scotty Scheffler.
I don't see how that ends well for them, but I hope you guys have a good time.
I hope we have. That will be the big win of the week. Us having a good time, right?
The President's Cup is going to tie fun to fun. Be good for everybody.
It's a good way to end it. I'll be back with Tambo next week. We're going to be recording from our studio in Montreal before we go to President's Cup that day. So no football stuff will be changed going into next week. We'll have all that content plus extra content. So come follow along, sub to Mayo Media Network right now and smash the like. All right. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!